Why, hello everybody, it is Kyle here. Thanks for joining me today on Unboxed Autos as we take a look at and review a car none other than the 2021 Audi SQ8. Now, the SQ8 sits above the Q8, obviously. The S line for Audi has always been for their sportier versions, right, of that vehicle. So what they've done here with the SQ8 is drop a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8 engine on the hood, making 500 horsepower and 568 foot-pounds of torque. Now, if that's not exciting, I don't know what is. You guys should just stop watching now. But what is even more exciting is that they make an RSQ8 as well if you want even more than 500 horsepower, which obviously is pretty crazy. Even here in this application, the SQ, which we're reviewing today, it has more than enough power. Now, let's get down to business. The Q8 is one of those vehicles which has that look about it which some people kind of either love it or they hate it. Now, I happen to really like the look. I think it's a very unique styling from a very sort of modern sport perspective. Now, the Q8 has the same underpinnings that, well, basically the Lamborghini's Urus uses. So if you're looking for something that's extremely sporty and dynamic, then the Q8 is definitely for you. Even the standard Q8 probably makes about 350 horsepower, which is obviously plenty as well. Now, one thing that we do have here on the SQ8 is a more unique look and more dynamic exterior appearance. We can see that there obviously with the badging that's, you know, on the front of the vehicle there in the front grille, on the rear of the vehicle. We also have these really sleek looking 22-inch V-spoke wheels. As you guys can see, they look really slick. Obviously, to running down the highway, those look really neat as well. Additionally, what we have here is some blacked out body panels. As you can see here, the front grille body panel there is done in black, right, for the S line. And stepping around to the rear, if you guys check it out back there, we have quad tipped exhaust done in a nice silver on this application. Looks very sporty, very cool. Another unique design element about the Q8 is that all of the doors are pillarless, right? So they're pillarless windows. So it gives it really more of a coupe look than anything else. We also kind of have that sort of rear sportback look. As you guys can see, it sort of, you know, drops down and it fades into the rear body panel. It looks very sleek, very sophisticated. Another thing I just can't get enough of is the LED lighting here on the Q8. It looks absolutely stunning. I love the rear deck here. As you guys can see, you know, it sort of slips into the side bumper a little bit there on the rear and then cuts across the back end with these very large LED rear tail lamps. And there's also that sort of light bar that just reaches all the way around the back. Looks very cool. And then of course below it there is that sort of, again, black accent body panels. So definitely very cool look on the Q8. Some people have sort of, you know, said it's, you know, it looks a little too different, the front's too big. But, you know, honestly guys, I don't think that at all, especially if you look at what some other manufacturers are doing. Talk about big grills. Hello BMW 4 Series, obviously. Also, the Mercedes-Benz grills have gotten, you know, quite large as well. So I think, you know, when the Q8 originally, you know, came out, that was sort of a new design element, right? Sort of having these really big grills. But now, honestly, if you take and compare a Q8 grill to any of those that I just mentioned, it's actually tiny. So I think we've definitely come across that problem. Obviously, looks are relative. Either you like how the car looks or you don't. But in my opinion, it's a very sleek, very sophisticated look. It looks definitely unlike anything else out there, honestly, on the road, especially with the pillarless windows. That's really a key element here on the design language, in my opinion, with the Q8 or any of the vehicles within the Q8 lineup, like the SQ8 or RSQ8. Now, Audi has been known to make some of the best multimedia systems on the planet, and that is still the case today in the 2021 Q8. right here we have their latest 2-screen system, right? So we have the bottom screen handling more of our everyday climate settings and everyday use cases right within the driving of the vehicle, where the top screen handles more of the multimedia things such as the radio, the navigation, etc. So what I really like about the system though is it's a very clean, very easy system to use. The bottom screen here we have our heated seats, we have our cooled seat settings. We of course can adjust between, syncing the climate settings right between driver and passenger. It is a 4-zone climate system here within the vehicle, so the rear passengers also get their own. We also have the auto stop start off button, hill descent control, and then we have a little swipe down there if we want to add a quick destinations there for the nav system. We can just quickly go to it with that button right there. We again also have our heated steering wheel buttons and things of that nature. We also, again, moving down there, have drive select, so we're able to go ahead into the different features of the car, and let's say we want to go here and go to dynamic mode, right? So what that's going to do in dynamic mode, it's going to lower our suspension, change the steering characteristics, louden the exhaust a little bit, change the mapping in the transmission. Oh boy. And make this car even more fun to drive than it already is. Jeez, oh Pete. Let me tell you guys, this car has a lot of power. 500 horsepower, and I think around 568 foot-pounds of torque is tons of crazy power. 0 to 60, I believe, in 4.8 seconds. And this thing weighs over 5,000 pounds, which is absolutely incredible. Again, that you can get this much performance out of an SUV. Now again, what's really helpful for this guy is what we do here within the suspension, right? So obviously the S-line here, we have a more rigid suspension. We have stiffer dampening settings that we can go through, which is very helpful. Another thing is obviously the air suspension makes a tremendous difference when it comes to handling and vehicle driving dynamics. Again, right now in the dynamic setting, it lowers the vehicle to its lowest state so that we can go ahead and get that maximum performance potential. Now what we also have is 4-wheel steering, and that helps us out a tremendous amount, especially on the back roads, those tight hairpin turns. That really helps us right with our handling capability. So that's another feature that Audi has here within the SQ8 that really just lets it shine from a dynamic handling perspective. But let me tell you guys, this 4-liter V8, oh man, it's so good. It's such a great engine. It redlines at about 6,800 RPMs, and there's just tons of power for days. Let me tell you, for days, this thing has tons of torque, tons of horsepower. It just keeps going. Let's say you're going 75, 80 miles an hour on the highway, and you just let it go, and boom, it just keeps going. Wants to keep going. It's really phenomenal. So what you can do, which is fun, is you pull up to a red light. It's on a highway. It's about to turn green. It's in dynamic mode, and then you decide, hey, I want to have a little fun. I have the Q8, and then you step on it, and it just goes like gangbusters. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It just sucks the road right up, and it's lots of fun. Let me tell you, the Q8 is a great vehicle. Don't get me wrong, but what's really better, frankly, is the SQ8 that we are in right here. Of course, it depends on who you are, what you want to drive every day, right? What your purpose is for your vehicle. I love sporty vehicles, so obviously, I am going to always opt for the larger engine whenever possible. But I'm telling you, there's just something about being at a red light in a quattro all-wheel drive vehicle with a turbocharged V8 under the hood, and just hitting the gas, maximum power, hearing that exhaust. Oh, it just sounds so good. It just sounds so good. It's incredible. And it really just launches you, with that all-wheel drive system that we have here, 22-inch sport wheels, really just takes off. And that 8-speed transmission, it's razor quick shifts. It's absolutely incredible. Always a pleasure to drive an Audi vehicle with the Tiptronic 8-speed automatic transmission. Really just doesn't get old launching this thing, from red lights on highways. So key note there, don't do this around town. Definitely, you know, take it out to a highway or something like that where there's plenty of space and room, because you hit 60 so quickly. Again, this car, it's so fast, it just, you're at 60. So keep that in mind. Another thing, you know, what it does so well is that it plays the whole sport SUV card very well, and we've made that clear. But what it does, you know, I mean, simply drop it back into comfort mode from dynamic mode, and you have yourself an incredibly comfortable everyday SUV. And that's what's so unique about, you know, the vehicles here we're getting into now, you know, 2021, is the ability that they have to go from sport to, you know, luxury in the snap of a finger. Now obviously this car does that very well, because we have, you know, the adaptive air suspension, adaptive dampening, we have the four-wheel steering, so we have a lot of technology, the latest technology out there, right, that does allow us to do that in this vehicle. Now the SQ8 is one of those vehicles where, you know, it looks still phenomenal, obviously, in the standard format, right, the Q8, but the SQ8 just really, you know, takes it to that next level. It's so much fun to get behind the wheel and, you know, put it in, you know, dynamic mode, right? So we can go ahead and put in dynamic mode. The suspension, right, we already feel the car lowering. We hear the exhaust tone up a little bit, and it just gives you that sense of sportiness, unlike so many vehicles. And a lot of SUVs try to play the game between sporty and luxury, right? But I'm telling you guys, the SQ8 does that exceptionally well. Now again, I think one of the things that makes such a difference, right, is the four-wheel steering. That makes such a big difference. We have the air suspension as well, and just the transmission in this guy is so good. I'm telling you guys, it's so good. Love the transmission, absolutely phenomenal. So, you know, I think the Q8, obviously it's not going to be their biggest seller, right? It's an expensive vehicle, right? The one we're as in here is around $90,000, $95,000. But what it is that unique SUV that really showcases all of the latest that the brand has to offer, right? So we have the latest multimedia system, we have the coolest infotainment system, we have the best digital instrument cluster, we have an incredible powertrain, unique body panels, the best of what Audi has to offer in terms of LED lighting. So it's really that vehicle that lets the people at Audi design what a car that they would design, right, if there were no restrictions, right? So basically what they went ahead and did was say, you know what, we want to make the best SUV we can make, and they let the designers have their way with the sculpting of the vehicle. They let their engineers have their way with the, you know, the powertrain, the dynamicism of the vehicle, and what we end up with is the Q8. And that is basically an active lifestyle sports SUV, is what I like to call it, right? It plays the role of luxury SUV and dynamic sports sedan, if you will, very well. Now obviously it's not a sports sedan, but it certainly drives like one, let me tell you, especially with that air suspension, how it can get so low to the ground. I mean, what we have here, ladies and gentlemen, is essentially a sports car, right? And you can tell when you take off, let her rip. Oh, the exhaust note, let me tell you, is incredible. Hearing it pop off as you get to that 6,800 RPM red line, it's just a great joy. It's just a great joy and lots of fun. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. Thanks for joining us as we reviewed the 2021 Audi SQ8. Please feel free to drop any comments or questions below about this vehicle. I'll be happy to answer them. And again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.